All right. So we're going to be continuing on the Shark app today, and I think due to like to weird calendar changes, this is unusual time. I there's a so I'm just going to be like recording this into the void. Mohammed, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Anyone else who drops in is also welcome to ask questions. But otherwise, this is going to be a recording that anyone can watch in their own time. And we're just going to continue to build out on the Shark app that we've been building up beforehand. Right now, we have have built an MVC Sinatra application. We've done that requirement. We have models, views, and controllers for two different models. We're using active record. That seems to be a given. We have a database, and we're using active record methods. We're using multiple models. We have two, right? The user model, and then one other model. So this is a user has many sharks with friggin' laser beams attached to their freaking heads, was the suggested one. A user can sign up, sign in, and sign out. We've done that so far. We have not validated the uniqueness of a user login attribute, like a username. I will get to that today. We have done this. A user can create, read, update, and destroy the resource that belongs to the user. We have not made it so that a user can edit and delete their own resources. We will do that today. And we have not validated data input, and we haven't displayed validation failures to the user. They use Sinatra Flash for this. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I talked about it a little bit last time. I'm also, if we have time, going to build a search feature and a couple of other little cool features that might be helpful. So to get started, we're going to get started by adding some validations, because currently a user can sign up with anything. I want to make it so that a user can only sign up with a username like that's unique, and a password that exists and is over 6 characters. Currently, if we go over here, we can log out. We can sign up. Oh, interesting. Looks like I broke something. Let's take a look. Yep. So this is the other case. Could not find user with ID equals new. That doesn't go away. I mentioned that we'd be seeing this error a lot. That's because it's going to the show route, because that triggers first. If we move the user/new route first, well, it will trigger that before it hits this users/ID route and tries to pass new in as an ID. So try that again. Did I not save? I did not save. Cool. So currently, if I hit sign up, I might get an error. We'll see. We're getting a rollback. But interestingly, it does not stop us. We're not logged in. It just redirects us back to the homepage. So that's like not a good user experience. We can check out why it didn't work. We'll try this again. Let's check our user model real quick. It validates username uniqueness true. So I'm gonna put a little binding up right here. We're gonna try this again. That's not correct. Here we go. Cool. So now you'll notice whenever we try to save something to a database, it runs our validations. That's what a validation is and how it works. We're going to talk a lot more about validations next phase. But for now, one thing to note is that when we write validates right here, we're developing rules for like how to check a record before saving it to the database. It doesn't run when we run user.new. It does run when we run user.save or user.create. So here we can actually type user, and you'll notice it tried to save it because we know that because we ran create. However, if you like notice the ID is nil, which shows that it did not get put into our database. So to actually check this, validations provide a really helpful tool. Whenever you try to save into your database and it doesn't work, it's going to add errors to the object that you tried to save. So in this case, we ran user equals user.create. Let's just show this in the code. So user is the object that we tried to save into the database. You'll notice if I call user dot errors, it will give me a bunch of different, it'll give me an errors object, which is an active model errors object, which is going to have a lot of methods on it. So you can already see a couple of useful things. It says password can't be blank, which I think is a really helpful error. If we want to see more details on what this error looks like, you can even go user.errors.full messages, and this is a method on errors, and it's going to put every single error into an array. Generally, when you see errors being rendered on the browser, we keep them as arrays because then you can bullet them out as separate errors. If you really want to merge all of them, if you end up with multiple, you can always call it toSentence, and then we'll try to do its best to join those to a bunch of comma separated things in a string. But let's go ahead and use user.errors.full messages here. So right now, this is a really helpful tool, right? Password can't be blank. That's a great thing to be able to tell our user, right? So in this case, we're trying, like, for a validation, right? We should have two different instances. One where the sign up goes through complete, and then they just redirect us to the home page and it welcomes them to our app. The other case where they failed to sign up, we should send them back to the sign up page with a little bit of information on what they did wrong. These errors provide a really good tool for showing what went wrong. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create an if statement. If user.valid, then do all this stuff. Else, here's where we handle errors. Cool. So previously, what I've done is I've just done @errors equal, it's like user.errors.full messages, and then like ERB users/new.html. This is one way of doing it. And it's an okay way to do it. We just use those errors, we'd render them out. One way I want you to start thinking about this is last time I introduced the flash hash. The Sinatra flash hash, I showed how to implement last review. So if you remember, it works exactly like session, except it only persists for one redirect request. Here's how I would make this work. Now that we have access to this flash hash, right? I would go flash errors right here equals user.errors.full messages. And then instead of just re-rendering our new page, which depending on how we set up the controller action for a new page would require us to redo a lot of the work in our new action, in our create action. So like in the case that we were like doing some sort of like instance variable setting right here, it would be helpful to not have to redo that in our else statement. So what we're doing here is I'm going to go ahead and redirect to /users/new. And then I'm going to put a binding.pry right here. Cool. We're going to go back here. So right now, if I hit refresh, we're going to actually hit the pry, which is bad. We don't want to do that yet. I'm going to exit. Cool. But then if I sign up and I get back this invalid data, it's going to hit the pry from the redirect. So just to show exactly what we did here, I posted to /users. I sent this post request with all my new data. It went ahead, said, hey, this user isn't valid. So then what it did is it went into this else statement, created this, said, hey, in there, put into the flash hash a key of errors, which is just an arbitrary key I made up that I think makes sense. Put into the flash hash the key of errors, this user.errors.full messages, and then redirect back to user/new. Then our users new is what hits the pry. So if we take a look at our actual routing, right? We would get to /user/new, then we do a post to /user/new right here. This is the part where we submitted the form, and then we're back in the get here. So here I can call flash errors, and I get this flash errors password can't be blank. This is great. The fact that I now have these errors here is awesome. It means we can then use them. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this pry because flash errors is totally okay to call directly in your views. I'm going to go over here and in my layouts, because I'm just going to say, hey, for the rest of my code here, I'm going to make it so that anytime I get errors, they just show up at the top of the page. If I go ahead right here and I say, right before a yield statement, div, I don't know, ul class equals errors /ul. And here I'm going to wrap this whole thing in an if statement. If flash a key of errors. End. Then flash a key of errors dot each do error. End. And we just render out that error. And we're putting this in our layout. So it's going to be in any single bit of code that we write. Anything that we render out to the browser, it's going to first check if there's anything in the flash hash under a key of errors. And if so, it's going to spit them out at the top. Cool. So here we go. Let's test this out. Users controller does not have the binding pry. Good. Okay. So I'm going to refresh this page. And you'll notice here, there's no errors yet. But the moment I hit sign up, it's going to redirect back after having put these errors into the flash hash. And then we get over here, password can't be blank. Cool. This becomes a really good tool for just like doing any sort of error handling. The one other thing that you will see, another pattern, is instead of using create and valid, if you don't want to create right away, you can always do user.new and then if user.save, because user.save will either return the user object or it will return false. So this will still work the same way. Sign up. And we get password can't be blank. But if we try this out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. We now get 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So this is great. We can go ahead and in our errors or in our styles, there we go. Just going to go ahead and say they don't have anything for errors, right? I'm going to go ahead and say dot errors color red. Great. Sign up. Don't mess with me here. Ugh. That probably, I might need like re-shotgun or something. But for now, that'll eventually work. For now we can add a couple more validations to our user model, right? So we're validating our username, uniqueness true, right? We can start tacking on extra passwords or extra validations that will then just be added. So here we go. This is a great one. Nice. There's a lot of different cool things you can do with validations. So right now I've been using 1, 2, 3 this whole time, but now my like as a developer, we probably don't want our users to be using 1, 2, 3 as their password. So validating that they have a password between 6 and 20 characters long seems like a reasonable solution. You'll note I added this to our database. This does not break our current users in the database that have 1, 2, 3. This is its own thing. So I'm going to go ahead and try this again. And this time first, I'm going to say like sign up. And now it says password can't be blank and password is too short. Minimum 6 is 6 characters. Active Record automatically generated that like whole statement for me. It said, hey, the minimum is 6 characters. It's too short. This is all stuff that Active Record just did under the hood. The moment I said I'm validating for length between 6 and 20. If I went ahead and I said cheese, and then I didn't give a password, we also get user name has already been taken. Now remember, password can't be blank comes from has secure password. That's a built-in validation. So at this point, we now have a pretty good, well-secured username and password, right? Like we actually need to come up with a unique name and a password that's pretty long. You can look into how to like also require special characters, things like that. I tend to think actually having a maximum length for a password is kind of dumb, but I'm going to go ahead and say like 60. Just because like if people can write a sentence, that's a great password usually. That's very hard to crack. But here we go. We now have the secure user, right? And we can, so at this point, we now have both error handling in terms of the user knows what's going on, it's displayed, and we have the ability to make sure our database is safe too. This is a really common pattern. As I said, you can also just set this equal to an errors instance variable and pass that right back down into a ERB file. You can't do that with a redirect though. Remember, you can't just go ahead and say @errors and then expect that to go through the redirect. @errors will go away before the redirect. So we need to use the flash hash if we want to send information from one side of a redirect to the other. Cool. If at any point you have any questions, feel free to just drop in and be like, hey, I have questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep vibing. But it is your pace today. So here we are. We now have, yeah, go ahead.
Just a question. For the flashers, the code that you put on in the layout, that's only one we have to put, or we have to like put in different files of like in users in each file? Do we have to put to show the flash errors, or just the layout?
That's what makes the Flash hash so good. If I just like decide that all of my errors are always going to be in Flash at a key of errors,
Mhm.
I can just have this statement. Um, there's also, right, sometimes you'll see something like this. Like you'll even see some people be like Flash success equals account successfully created. And then right here, anytime you want to tell someone they successfully did something rather than just redirecting them, you can do that. So I can go ahead and right here, I can be like, sign up, cheese, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Account successfully created. But as long as I just put this in my layouts, right? As long as I like, as long as I use this in my layouts, and I make sure that anytime I pass errors into the Flash, I flat put it at a key of errors. I don't need to add this to any of my other views. It just
Okay.
pops up at the top of everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of our deliverables, we now have validate the uniqueness of the user login attribute that happened. Um, and we've even done a bit of this. And we've definitely done our bonus, right? Like this is the bonus. Display validation failures to the user with error messages. Great. So now I'm going to do the same thing with some of our user input data from our actual browser, right? Or for our actual sharks. So here, right, we're going to do something kind of similar. We're going to add some validations to the shark model. Cool. So let's validate the age in 0 to 100,000, 1 million. That works. This I realize means that megalodons and other prehistoric sharks may not make it in here, but I think it makes sense. Oh, right. Length. So I'm just using the same exact formatting that I stole from here. Length, colon, in this. I think we might also want to be like validates age, presence, true. Make sure that all sharks have an age. Let's go ahead back to our documentation for this, right? And also let's take a look at what shark things we might want to validate. So we go to our schema. They've got a name, got a color, they've got an age, and they've got a user ID. So maybe we'll validate the name and color, presence, true. And it's really friendly with how it allows you to write this. Um you can totally comma separate either which keys you want to use or which values you want to use. Um so let's go ahead and try these out. So in our sharks controller, we now have this get to sharks new, right? I can try to create a new shark, right? If I adopt a shark right now, our validation should fail, right? We're not, it gets really upset with us, actually. Or it tries to redirect to /sharks. What happens if I do this? Interesting. Let's try this one more time. Cool. It didn't create it. I think if I don't have a slash, it breaks this, but if I do have a slash, it breaks the other way. Interesting. Okay. Well, regardless, we definitely don't want to like have our failure. Right. So it's going to shark /nil right here, which is what's causing the error, right? So we're trying to create a shark, right? We're getting a rollback, which means it's not going to save it to the database. So then it's redirecting to /shark/ and then nil because it doesn't have an ID. So that renders as blank in string interpolation. So we need to put a binding.pry here to check my assumptions here. But now if we adopt a shark, we can go ahead and say shark real quick. You'll see that it still doesn't have an ID despite the fact that I called create. So I can actually go ahead and I can say shark.errors right here. And you'll see a bunch of different errors. So one thing that we can do here is we can go ahead and in our flash hash, if shark.valid, don't do that, just redirect. Else, redirect to /sharks/new. Let's try that out. I think it's .errors.full messages is how we've been doing it. Cool. Adopt a shark. Am I still in pry? I am still in pry. Exit. Just gonna do it one more time. Then we still now see the name can't be blank, color can't be blank, and age is too short. Minimum is 0. I think this is inclusion. Let's try that one more time. That's we don't really need a character length, but age is not included in the list. If we want more specific error messages, there's also numericality. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So the way that I learned this is I literally just have before been like, hey, how do I validate to see if something's within a certain number? And then I've just clicked around in here until you get all the stuff you want. So here we can actually go numericality greater than or equal to 0. If I want to also give it a like less than this number, I can too. Let's go ahead and try that out. Or let's actually, how old are sharks? 450 million years. That's crazy. So let's go ahead. 450. I'm eventually going to get rid of these. Yeah, cool. So it's got to be less than 450 million years old because after that, there were no sharks around on the planet that we know of. I think that makes sense. That's a good validation. Let's go ahead and try this out. So I'm gonna go try to adopt this. So the age is not a number. But now if I decide to hack, remember last time we like gave it a minimum age, right? If I went ahead and said the minimum is actually -20, right? And I went like this, I'll still get an error. That's actually very useful, even though I'm trying to hack this app. Age must be greater than or equal to 0. And we can actually give our actual view a max of 450 million. Cool. So at this point, we can now try to adopt um a new shark, and it'll work, right? It's only when it does something wrong that it'll give us something else. Now, the issue here is we still haven't done this for our edit action. And so here, if I went ahead and did something evil, like said, hey, here the minimum value is -20, and sent this over here, it's not going to break our app because our database is now safe, right? It's not going to, but it is not going to be very clear. It's just going to be like, hey, age is 5, colors is cheese, owner is cheese 2. And it'll be like, whoa, I tried to update the age to be -20 because I'm bad. I'm trying to hack your app. But we didn't really set an error over for that. Now, at this point, for an actual error message, this is going to be probably the hardest use of the flash hash. And the best use case for maybe ignoring the don't post to the don't like reuse your like ERB here. But if you want to use this, do this with the flash hash. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what I mean in a sec. Oh, right, we're in Sharks controller. Our edit currently, we need if shark.update, right? We can just do this. We're good. Else flash errors equals shark.errors. Yeah. And then at this point, this will still go ahead and do the exact same thing. If we go redirect to /shark.id /edit. Sorry, I think I anticipated a question or an issue that I don't think we really have to worry about right now.
We're not gonna put depart for messages.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Great. Let's go ahead. And it might actually be smarter to just go ahead and do this for all of them. We can go ahead and say, hey, we can always not use full messages if we want to. We can always just in our layouts call .full messages. I think this should work. Let's try it out. Let's create a new shark. Nope. Ah. Yeah, no. Errors sends back too much information. Ignore me. So we were getting, you noticed it said cookie failed to save session contact drop because we were saving too much data in there. Apparently errors, if we just call flash errors, it tries to like send over the whole object and a lot of like built-in methods, which we probably don't want to do. That's a fun little thing to try out, but makes sense that it doesn't work. So one thing to note there, this is actually kind of important. The flash hash and cookies have a built-in character limit. There are ways to extend it. We're not going to get into that right now. By default, session uses a cookie. When you get to Rails, you can go ahead and say, actually build a cache database in our Rails app that keeps track of it on the session side. We're not going to be teaching that, but it's a real thing you can do. This was weird, right? But full messages is just a set of strings, right? Where if we just send over all of the errors, then that's a bunch of like Ruby objects that have a bunch of methods on it. Let's try this one more time. Make sure I didn't screw everything up. Cool. Great. So now our edit action is going to do the exact same thing, right? We when we or our update action is going to do the exact same thing, right? Where we go ahead and we say, hey, if the shark updates, redirect. Otherwise, go back to the edit page with these new error messages. Let's try this again. All sharks. Tiny. Edit tiny. And here I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the name. Now it says name can't be blank. And then refills the old data for what the like from the database of how that worked, of what the information was. Do you see how that works? Refilling the old information comes from our edit action itself, right? We first thing we do is we find the shark with params ID. And then in our edit page, we use those as the default values. Cool. All right. I'm gonna like double check that we've got everything here. One cautionary thing. Is that we still have the outstanding issue of our birthday button is a way around. This update will fail a validation, right? We can always be like, if there's a case where they go past 450 million, not likely. We can always go ahead and say, if shark didn't implement birthday, do this. You can go like this. Else flash errors equals, and then we can just build a custom error, right? Like we can be like, shark is too old. And go ahead and do this. So now if we go back to our shark app, right, and we give tiny 449,999,999. I need to change adopt a shark to something else. Row. I need an end here. Cool. Now we get tiny up to 400, nearly 450 million. We hit it's tiny's birthday. And now we say shark is too old in that case. We can add whatever we want to our error messages here. Because this would make it 450 million years old. Technically, sharks can be 450 million years old. We don't want them to be 450 million. One, if we want to change that, we can do less than or equal to, and then we can try this again. It's Tiny's birthday. And that works. But then if I click it's Tiny's birthday again, we get shark is too old. Nothing stops us from customizing this. So now we have, in terms of our application, we can build an MVC Sinatra application. We can use active record with Sinatra. We can use multiple models, excuse me. We can use at least one has many and one belongs to. We validate uniqueness. We have user attributes. The one thing we don't have is this bad boy. Ensures that users can edit and delete only their own resources, not resources created by other users. Cool. Now this one is something that we can just do in our views, right? Right now, when we see over here that Tiny has this edit Tiny, it's Tiny's birthday and delete this shark button, right? Those should only be available for you to click if I'm logged in as Batman. The way we just do this is pretty straightforward. Let's go to our show page. And over here, we can go ahead and say, if current user equals at shark.user, do the stuff. This is the user friendly way to do this. This doesn't make it hack proof. So then there's going to be 1 second step that we need to do for this to work, or a couple of second steps, right? So I'm going to just do this right here. This is a useful little tool because now I can refresh this page and I don't see those options. But if I hit new shark, I can go ahead and Stabby McBites, Bloody age. He's a youngin. Young shark. Cool. So now Stabby McBites, I can see Stabby McBites' edit Stabby McBites. I can see it's Stabby McBites' birthday, and I can see delete the shark. However, if I go to someone else's sharks, right, then I don't get those options. Oh, right. That's also my shark. If I go to somebody else's shark, I don't get that option. Now, as a good hacker, right? Like one of the first things I would check, hey, are you just hiding this from me on the front end? Or legitimately, can I not do this? So right now, if I were a good hacker right here, I could inspect this page. I could open my network tab. I can keep paying attention, right? I could go ahead and say, oh, cool. There's this, it sends out this fetch request right here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Cool. Oh, wait. It sends this post request with a secret method of patch with shark name Stabby, color Bloody, age 4, and sending it to shark/7. So as a hacker, my first thing I would try is I would just copy this as a fetch. And then we'd go over to Tiny, right? And here, I could go ahead and copy this whole fetch request, right? Change the ID to 5, right? And this might not work because I have a feeling that we've got a couple more. No, this will probably work. And then I'm going to just go ahead right here. And I'm going to call this shark loser shark. Let's see what this does. Now if I refresh the page, did I hack my app? Boom, I hacked my app. What I just did there was I was just like, oh, cool. I know the pattern on the back end. I know how these requests are sent over. I'm going to copy this request, switch the ID. And then what I eventually did was I just went like, oh, we're actually sending a shark/5. And in there, the body is going to be, we're in this like name section right here. We're changing it to be loser right here. And that worked. So this does not protect my app from being hacked. This like if statement right here. It does help out with like making sure that the users know what's going on. But if I actually want to make my app secure, we're going to need a little something else, right? We're going to need a controller level validation. We're going to need to say like, hey, is this request coming from current user? So in our patch action, right, we can do if oh wait, let's go ahead and do this, right? If shark.user equals current user. Else flash errors equals nice try sucka redirect / end. Cool. Now I'm not going to demonstrate this not working. You don't actually need to like kindly redirect a hacker. You can always just do this and then we're good, right? Like in the alternate case where shark.user doesn't equal current user, that means someone's trying to hack your app and you don't need to be like, hey, you did a bad job here. Go back to the app, right? Like you might want it for fun, right? But this locks down our patch request, right? Now we can actually test this out. Else puts someone just tried to hack us. What the heck? Cool. Let's try that again. You know what? I'm actually going to do this in a much more obvious way. Let's go ahead and open up Postman. Cool. Come on, Buckaroo. There we go. Cool. Oop. Cool. So here, right, we can test this out over here. We can say, hey, I want to do patch request to localhost 9393 slash, this case, sharks/5, right? A patch request over to here. Cool. And here we can go ahead and say, we can go ahead and say, hey, we want shark key of name. Let's actually put this in the body. That's bad. Equal to Batman. Let's send this over. Oh, I might get mad if I'm trying to hit it from Postman. Or I might have written it wrong. Oh, right. That was my birthday patch. I did this in the complete wrong place. If shark. Let's try that one more time. Nice. I think this one is a little bit unusual. We might have to send it slightly differently. No, we get someone just tried to hack us. What the heck, right? It didn't. It tried to find the shark. It found it successfully, right? There might be something weird here. We can go to the binding nut pry. Now if I go over here, I can like look at my params and see how I did it wrong. So like our params came through weird because I was doing it with Postman. But importantly, because we didn't have shark.user equals current user, we get someone tried to hack us. What the heck? Cool. So that's a good way to lock down our app. So we can do this a couple more times in a couple of different places, right? If shark.user equals current user over here, shark.destroy, redirect over here, else do nothing. We can just end here. Cool. And so that works for our delete action, our patch action, and everything else, right? Now our app is secure, both in terms of our view level, like it doesn't show it unless it's the right, unless we're looking at these sharks. And if they try to hack us, it will ignore it. One other thing that you might find useful, a common pattern is to do def redirect if not logged in, if not current user, right? You can write it like this. That's the correct thing. Cool. And now we can even go ahead and say redirect if not logged in like something like our new action and in our post action. But like, let's say we log out and then I'm like, okay, I'm not logged in, but I want to create a shark anyways. /new. I actually think that might be a thing to, what did I do wrong? Redirect if not logged in, didn't save. Cool. So it redirects me to login. Once I'm logged in though, then if I go to new shark, it won't redirect me. So I can just put that anywhere where I don't want a user accessing it unless they're logged in. And that's a good way to quickly lock down your app. One thing I should probably check. We should probably like validate the user ID too of a shark. Don't save it to its database unless it belongs to anyone. We have no free roaming sharks here. We can try this again. Let's go with princess golden 12. I had a dog named Princess when I was a kid. And there we go, that works. But, and I can't really show the counter because we've already got that redirect if not logged in, but now it's saved on our database, right? If I did this with Postman, it wouldn't work, right? So I can just go ahead and like actually prove that real quick. Let's go ahead and copy that last one. There we go. Right, post/sharks. Great. Copy as curl. Let's import that into Postman. Import. Oops. Raw text. Oop. Cool. So now you'll notice it does have like our different thing, right? If I went ahead and tried to create another one right here, but without, I think our rec session, like without our cookie, right? I think we'll actually decline it with our cookie. If I went ahead and I tried to create evil princess that hacks, we'll see a no method error, which is interesting, but not bad. If it's giving us an error, it says undefined method sharks for false class. But I think, yeah. Oh, this one might be just protected because we're doing current user.sharks.create, so we're good there. So that'll just crash regardless. But our validation makes sure that we're 100% certain that it will be protected, especially if I decide to like write it differently some other time. We will never end up with a shark in our database that does not belong to a user. Because once we do, we have to create ifs, like once we've taken in data from a user, unless we don't want to like kick that user off our platform, we need to like make ways for them to handle like having the fact that like some sharks don't belong to a user. So validation's always important whenever you want to like protect something on your controller. Also just protecting your validations just in case. I think we can also do this over here. Redirect if not logged in our edit action. Cool. And so now we've got like a really secure, neat app that does not, that doesn't lend itself to being hacked. And we pass all of our requirements for validations. How are you feeling on this? Do you have any questions?
Oh no, it feels perfect.
Awesome. Cool. So at this point, I want to show like a couple of other cool things that might be interesting or might be useful for your app. Cool. The first one is, let's say we wanted to search, right? I'm going to add a little search feature into our index page, right? This is a very common implementation, right? So in our index page, right, add a little form right here to allow you to search by shark, right? So here in my view page for sharks index, I'm going to do a little form. And I'll make the method equal post action equal slash sharks slash search slash form. And here I'm just going to have an input text equals, or type equals text, value or no value. But in here, I'm going to give it name equals to search. Another common one is query, Q. We can do that. Let's call it search because that's more obvious to people who are joining in. Input type equals submit, name, value equals search for a shark. slash form. Great. Try this one more time. Nice. So now we have this little shark form, right? Like
You
this is just
close the form.
oh, yep. Good call. So we have a form for a shark right here. Search for a shark. And we can just, at the other end, we're going to be going to /shark/search with the method of post. So we can go ahead down here. I don't think there's any other situation where we post to sharks/something. We can go ahead and say post to /sharks/search. Do. And we'll just put in a binding.pry here. So here we can go ahead and try this now. Let's try loser. Let's do luz. Sure. And now over here. Oh, I have a way more fun way to do this. I'm actually going to do this the way more fun way. Sorry. This is fun. But one thing that's more fun, instead we're going to make this method guess, and we're going to reuse our index. Because I think that way makes more sense. So I'm going to show you what that does. Instead of having this other route here, I don't know how I was building it the old way. Let's bind it up right here. Let's go /sharks. This time we're going to hit a binding up right, but I'm going to exit it. And here, I'm now going to say lose. And now in our index, right? Now we have in our params this param of search. So there's going to be a couple things we need to do here. If we're searching, only render some sharks. Otherwise, render all sharks. We can do part of this right now. If params at a key of params at a key of search. Binding.pry. Else, just render all sharks. We can do this little else statement, right? All we're trying to define here is at sharks, and then regardless, we're going to be rendering the index page. Cool. So here, this already does a lot for us, right? We can exit. We're going to refresh this page real quick. And we're going to hit this by bug because in our route right here, we now have the params search equals LOS, right? But if I exited this and I went just to raw sharks, right, without the search parameter, it'll work, right? We're seeing all sharks. So we're back to working in the case where they're not sending a search over. So now we just need to write the search. So I'm going to do stab. We're going to search for a shark again, and we're going to hit this pry. Cool. So now we just need to come up with an active record way of finding all of the sharks whose names are similar to stab. Now we can go pretty quickly and we can make one that does exact matches, right? We can always do like, let's go ahead and try this again. Search for loser. If they typed in the exact match, right? Like this would be pretty easy, right? We could be like shark.find by name, params search, and would give us loser, right? But if I typed in lose right now, or lowercase loser, I'd get nothing. Fortunately, Google comes to the help. So we can always do active record search by name. And there's actually there will be tons of ones that give you basically this exact SQL query, which is something that is I'm going to talk through. So we can, I'm just going to do like name like, and you will find this exact kind of a write-up. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means, but this is all stuff that you can do with SQL. If I do shark dot where name like, and then I pass in here, stab. I think this works. Yep, it works. What we're doing right here is we're actually using a SQL method. We're saying shark.where, and then we pass in this query. The name, which is the attribute we're searching for, is like, and then we pass in this value. It says question mark, and then the second comma is going to be the value we're passing in. And then we're going to pass in a string that has two percent signs at the end. Those are wild cards in SQL. What those do is those say with anything on either side of this parameter, and then on the inside, this new variable right here. So here's where I'm actually string interpolating this percent sign. This is string interpolation. Inside here, we're string interpolating. And here I'm going to pass in params at a key of search. And this is going to work for loser, but it's also going to be way more useful for just finding all the sharks that match this. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in the code, and then we can stop and talk about it. So I'm going to go back here. And you're noticing that I'm setting the result of the search equal to @sharks, right? We're going to try to get back an array and render a smaller amount of sharks. So if I want to say loose, I now can. If I want to go back and I want to say any shark with an A in it, I can. If I want to say print, I can. And if I just want to search by having any sort of name at all, I can. The way that this works is we're passing null in here, right? We're passing nil in here. So it goes, hey, give me a name that looks like anything. This is a SQL query that you'll see a lot. If we want to make it search by color, we can do that too. Gray. I bet I wrote some gray ones. No? Gray. What did I call you? Oh, I did bloody. Bloody. Cool. So this is just a really helpful little active record query. And what we're doing right here is, once again, we're string interpolating our search parameter, and we're giving it wildcards on either side to say with anything on either side, and we're passing it into the SQL like method, which is just a method that will allow you to check strings, see if they look like each other. So it'll probably check. So I don't think it'll check for misspellings. It won't do that. But what it will check for is if, like, lowercase, they look the same. And what we're doing right here is, if that parameter is sent over, only show me these sharks, otherwise show me all the sharks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Cool. I think at this point, that's all I wanted to show today. Is there anything you want to dig into before we end?
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining. I'm gonna kill this now. And have a good one.
So we'll have a class next week too, or no?
We don't for the next 2 weeks. We don't have class unless there's something you want to learn about.
Oh, so,
I might decide to do something like this if I get a lot of questions on it. But for now, it's next week is Project Week Part 2. I don't have any study groups planned.
okay.
And then the week after is our break week.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
Take care. Bye bye.